Hello, everyone. Today is Wednesday, October 7th. As always, I'm your host for Collectibles and Coffee, Edward Gwynn. Today, as the year winds down, we're in late October already, even though it still feels like we're on like the 600th day of March or whatever. But the year is winding down. We are solidly into quarter four now. And then this is a time when people start to look at the end of the year. If you're a retail business, maybe you're looking at your yearly goals, quarterly goals, a way to wrap out the year strong. As for your average consumer, we're at the point when we start thinking about the holidays, the year end, Black Friday, right? These are all things that we take into consideration as your average consumer. Both of these goals views do line up. Your businesses are looking to sell as much as possible, and as a consumer, we are looking for the best possible deal on what we can get. Today, we'll kind of look at that. We'll kind of take a look at quarter four, what we can expect for the remainder of the year. We'll talk retail. We'll talk Black Friday. We'll kind of look at how the real world is impacting decisions regarding what we do, how we handle some of these choices that we'll make towards the end of the year. And then we'll see where can we best put our money as the year rounds out. How can we stretch our dollar the most, and what we can do to make the best decisions going forward, again, towards the end of the year and then into 2021. So we'll hop right in. I've mentioned this a few times before. A few of the retailers have confirmed it as well from the interviews that we've had on here. October is traditionally your slowest retail month. There's several major factors in this. Usually the most common one is that we have a feedback loop in a sense. A lot of retailers have identified that because October is a slow retail month, we generally don't have products being released. We don't have new things coming out. So for retailers, it's a little tough. When we combine the fact that it's back to school, for most people in our age demographic, right, teens, 20s, etc., people are going back to school. People are looking at ways to be spending less money, right? We're inherently coming off of the summer, right? Traditionally, we would look at this as people have spent their money on vacations, summer things, outside activities, etc. And now people are coming back inside. People are being situated in reality. The weather's getting worse. As such, there's less opportunities for people to be willing to spend money. As such, we don't see big retailers coming out with new products, right? That's why the fall release is so big. Zendikar Rising, Champions Path for Yu-Gi-Oh! We had Rage of Raw coming out last week, or not last week, probably 2 weeks ago at this point, excuse me. These all came out in September, and that's them wanting to boost and buffer their sales as a way to start off the quarter four strong. That's why the set release is so big. That's why we see rotations happen around this time. With Pokemon, we see the beginning of the competitive season. Most of the regionals start to happen around the beginning of October/end of September. That's usually when we see events start to roll out. As such, October is when a lot of retailers struggle. Usually this is kind of the time they choose to start ramping up in preparation and anticipation of Black Friday. For those listeners out there who are not in the US, Black Friday, this is a phenomenon you may be aware of. Black Friday is traditionally the day after US Thanksgiving, right? It always falls on a Friday. Thanksgiving always falls on Thursday. It has traditionally been a huge platform for retailers to be able to sell a lot on Black Friday. Usually it's touted as being the single biggest selling day of the year, that Black Friday. This goes for all level of retails, not just specifically toys and collectibles, right? We're talking like big box stores, Walmart, Target, Amazon, Macy's, Sears, etc. when Sears still existed before they went out of business. All these places, right? This was their single biggest day sale. Almost every level of retail has a Black Friday of some sort. And that's something they look towards. Usually places are trying to come out and hammer you with the best possible deals to try and get your money. Following Black Friday in more recent years, with how prevalent e-commerce is becoming with online sales, we now have a Cyber Monday. That's something that's started to become much, much more prevalent over the past few years, as more and more people are starting to warm up to the idea of buying things online, doing your shopping from home, and buying online instead of going out and doing so. In the past, probably kind of in the late 2000s, 2005, 2010 or so, it became more and more popular for people to start lining up, especially this is kind of the age when consumer electronics were really starting to explode, and when they're becoming much more accessible to people. People would be lining up overnight or getting up very, very early in the morning for Black Friday deals. As being someone who was starting high school / college, I've definitely done a few Black Fridays where we either stayed overnight or spent a long time waiting and getting up early in the morning for Black Friday deals, especially on things like TVs, right? We always hear about this. Usually you get some doorbuster deal on TVs. These were things that are very prevalent and very commonplace. That being said, as time went on, as we started getting into the early parts of the decade, 2010, 2012, more and more traffic started moving to online sales. A lot of the retailers started pushing it more and more. There was still kind of a power struggle to get the best Black Friday deal. In the past years, they started to move it earlier and earlier. At one point, it was Black Friday didn't really start until 6 in the morning, and then retailers started pushing it back to 5, and they started pushing it back to 4, and then people started opening at midnight. For those of you who don't remember, there was a huge outcry among retail workers at the time, because in order for a midnight opening to happen on the night of Thanksgiving, retailers would start bringing people in for their shifts for Black Friday, starting at 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., etc. And this obviously was upsetting to a lot of people, because people felt like it was the time to be with their family on Thanksgiving. And then at some point, it started even getting more crazy, right? We had Black Friday now starts on Thursday for whatever reason. Stores were opening at like 8 p.m. or 9 p.m., trying to encourage some of the people to shift their attention from the morning to kind of mitigate that huge rush. If you read some of the news, right, people have definitely been injured, people have been trampled, there's been like stampedes to try and rush to get deals, fights have broken out, and a lot of retailers started to kind of step back and realize that, okay, maybe this isn't the most sane thing to do, this isn't the best thing to do, we're encouraging, pretty unhealthy behaviors, right? People are going crazy, people are fighting over parking spots, people are fighting over their last TV, people are lining for hundreds of feet, right? There's hundreds of people in line just waiting to try and get that best deal possible. It's not good for the workers, right? People were pretty upset. I know a lot of places dealt with retail worker protests. A lot of people just walked out. They refused to work. They, again, felt like Thursday should be the time to be spent with their family. No one wanted to go in early that day and then, work like a 12-hour shift through the night to kind of deal with the initial rush or whatever. So Black Friday has certainly changed over the years. In more recent years, there's been a bigger and bigger push towards e-commerce. This is something that will have a lot of this year. I don't suspect that this will be the prime year for people wanting to go and do physical shopping. Again, pandemic, this is something that has really permeated all aspects of retail business. So in addition to the growth that we've seen in the past years regarding e-commerce businesses, regarding how much of these big retailers from all levels, right, not just at the top, Amazon, Walmart, Target, right, they do very well online. And Black Friday, no real surprise. A lot of people want to do shopping from home. Now that it's becoming so easy, so accessible to do your shopping online, right? All these major retailers, right? Target, Amazon, Walmart, they have apps. You can literally just punch in what you want. If you want to go and pick it up, you don't want to wait for it to be shipped, right? A lot of places do have curbside pickup available. That's becoming something that has really become a mainstay in the pandemic for a lot of businesses. But even so, waiting a few days for the shipping turnaround, right? You can order it on Thanksgiving Day when you're having dinner on Friday, and then likely it'll be at your door within the next few days, assuming no real issues with right, shipping right now. Shipping does take a bit of a beating during the holiday season, usually because there's just a huge surge in consumer traffic and the amount of people, excuse me, who are trying to ship products, ship gifts, right, ship their purchases, etc. So it does get clogged up, but with how big Black Friday is, it's no surprise that this year, more than any, I think Black Friday will probably be permanently changed after this year. We're starting to see it come earlier and earlier. Before, right, if we're talking about 10 years ago, Black Friday was really relegated to specifically Black Friday morning, right? People would get up early. I seem to vaguely remember leaving the house at like 2 or 3 in the morning once, standing outside in the cold, waiting like 3+ hours or whatever for one of these places to open. I think it was like a Best Buy or whatever at the time to get consumer electronics. And then the game changed, and then deals started happening on Thursday. Deals started happening online. Deals started happening the whole week. And now we're really starting to see it get taken a step further. Now we're already starting to hear talks about Black Friday. It may not be obvious yet, but if you start looking at sites, people are starting to like already consider deals. Amazon, their infamous Prime Day, it traditionally happens, I believe, in July. It's been pushed back. It didn't happen in July this year. It's actually happening next week. I want to say it's happening a week from today, the 13th/14th, sometime in there. You can already start getting early Prime Day deals on Amazon. So this is something that is happening. This is something that Amazon is very, very aware of, right? They're probably one of the most well-known, right? Everyone knows about Amazon, probably one of the biggest retailers in the world for e-commerce in terms of just how much traffic they get through their site, how much people do their shopping, right, on all levels, right? Not just from Amazon itself, right? A lot of us have Prime accounts. A lot of us get our groceries delivered through Amazon Prime. That's an option for me. I know I've used it a few times when I just didn't feel like going out and getting groceries. So this is something that retailers will be pushing for more and more. I believe Home Depot and a few other retailers have actually said that they're going to do basically a nonstop month of deals in anticipation of Black Friday. It's now going to be a month-long endeavor instead of just a week-long or a 2 to 3 day endeavor. And this really goes to show how much these retailers are getting hit by the current pandemic. Sales are, no surprise, down across the board, across all industries. Right, October being a slow retail month really hurts a lot of people. There's a reason for this. If you think about just kind of across the board, it's not isolated to just the retail industry, right? You never hear about an October blockbuster when it comes to movies. You hear about summer blockbusters, right? So in the movie industry, they actually refer to this as a dump month. I believe dump months are, there's a few times in the year when this happened. And it's just basically when people don't want to go out and see a movie, right? This is further made worse by the current state of the pandemic, where people aren't really going out to movie theaters to begin with. But traditionally, right, you don't really have big blockbuster releases in October. You have them in the summer, right? May, June, July, people are off. People have more leisure time, right? The sun's out later, etc. So that's when you have a lot of releases, or you start seeing holiday-ish movies, so you see late November, early December for when movies are released. October, kind of that lull period, not really much happening in between. So movie industry, same idea. Travel industry, I know this from experience, for having traveled extensively for events over the past few years. October, tickets are generally much more affordable for people looking to go on holidays. It's known as the off-peak season. This is really when the travel industry kind of hits a low in terms of traffic, right? Most people who took vacations, they probably took summer vacations, or people are waiting for November/December to take a holiday vacation. People go to see family for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, for Hanukkah, right? The holidays. That's when people are traveling. In October, unless you really have to, you don't really see as much travel. And as a result, I've been able to discover some pretty good vacation deals in the past. The few vacations I've been on usually have been in October. You do have a lot less tourist traffic coming in. You don't, a lot of the people that did take their vacations during the summer, not really doing so in October. So, lines aren't as bad, traffic isn't as bad, air travel isn't as bad. So the airline industry is something or not just the airline, but the travel industry as a whole is something that is impacted by this as well. And this is something that, again, this concept of October being a slow retail month really has permeated kind of across the board for all industries. Even Magic events. Historically, October, even though we're coming off the wake of a new set, new rotation, whole new standard, October, November events, generally on the lower side in terms of attendance, in terms of popularity. I know we've been to some pretty poorly attended shows in October and kind of beginning of November. Again, this isn't really the time for people to be traveling. The big events, there's a reason why Vegas always happens during the summer, right? This is when they know that there will be the most amount of people with the most time off that are most likely to make this trip. It doesn't really make sense to put Vegas in October for whatever reason, right? When you start having scheduling conflicts with school, with real life, it's hard for people to get vacation. People are less inclined to take a vacation, right? All these factors coming in together really makes it difficult during the month of October. So if we return to the concept of Black Friday now, right, we're October, if it was a poor month before for your average retailer, for your small business, right, your mom and pop shop, what have you, it's going to be especially rough this year with a lot of places, right? There are still game stores. Rusty Hunt, owner of NRG, he was on a few weeks ago. He had mentioned that his store, he plans on staying closed through the rest of 2020. They're strictly an online operation only. I do believe that he mentioned that they have curbside pickup for people that want to order something online in advance and come directly to the store to pick it up. But that store not being open, right? You don't have walk-in traffic. You don't have people that are just walking up and browsing around, buying board games, buying things inside your store. So really, really tough on retailers. That's probably why Black Friday this year, where it's probably going to permanently change the game of Black Friday and what it looks like going forward. Online operations, e-commerce is really going to be everything. I expect that retailers who are going to be ahead of the curve, right, on Black Friday, right now you have to start pushing deals. You can no longer say, hey, come into your store on Black Friday unless you're already open. Even if you are, you probably have a lot of people that have reservations about doing so, right? You have consumers who may have been supporters of, I'm going to their store on Black Friday. They may not be doing so now. They may be turning to online shopping instead. If you look at data that's been published, Business Insider, in the month of August, they had published that for the year-over-year, Walmart online sales reported a 97% annual growth in quarter two. Quarter two, right, this was kind of the beginning of the pandemic, right, April, May, June. 97% annual growth for year-over-year is a huge, huge, huge surge for Walmart. When you think about an entity as big as Walmart, and they're looking at 97% growth year over year, right? Year over year compares April, May, June, quarter two of 2020 to quarter two of 2019. 97% growth is a pretty big deal. That really goes to show how much people had shifted their shopping practices, right? And then I'm sure most of us are pretty familiar in today's day and age, right? How many of us have turned to online shopping in some capacity? Since the beginning of the pandemic started, right? It's no surprise. I've used my share of Uber Eats. We've had food delivered. I've ordered food to have it picked up, just prepared, ready for me to go. And I just, relatively contactless pickup, go in, pick it up, and then be good to go. I've definitely ordered plenty of things from Amazon Prime, right? This isn't a foreign concept to most of us. Most of us have probably done this in some capacity. I haven't really done curbside pickup with any any retail operation yet, to my knowledge. For the most part, I'm okay with things being shipped. That's just kind of nature. You order it, you kind of forget about it, and then you just kind of get a pleasant surprise when it shows up at your door 4 days later, 5 days later. In the case of Prime, I've definitely ordered things and have it there the next business day or next 2 business days. I do live in a metropolitan area, so I do have that luxury, but these are all things, right? These aren't foreign anymore. It shouldn't be foreign to anyone. Anyone who had any reservations about ordering things online probably have been forced to use an e-commerce platform in some capacity since the beginning of the pandemic. And when we're talking about Black Friday now, with it coming up, right? I expect more and more retailers to start looking at ways to get your money well ahead of the curve, because if you're waiting until November and their retailers already had deals starting in October, right? People may be stretched too thin on their wallet. People may simply not have the money to afford to be buying your product come Black Friday in November, right? That's why we're seeing it pushed earlier and earlier now, especially now it's becoming so easy. With Amazon Prime, I know it's as simple as pushing a button, literally swiping to the right, and then it just confirms your order, and then you're done. You can find something that I'm out of something, I want to buy it, just type it in on Amazon and just have it purchased in less than like 30 seconds. It's incredible. And as more retailers are trying to push for this, I suspect that it's really going to change the face of the game. It wouldn't surprise me. I know that our industry in collectibles and hobbies, game stores, it's still relatively narrow. It's probably a little bit too early to start thinking about that. But it would not surprise me if we start seeing a major player, if we start seeing TCG. TCG in the past, they've done like kind of their Black Friday sale is usually a major kickback. I think they've done anything as much as like 15%. I think it's 10% kickback in terms of credit in the past few years. Right? If you spend $10, you'll get $1 back in TCG credit to use towards a future purchase. Right? These are all things that when Black Friday rolls around, any retailer that got ahead of that, it would not surprise me if we started to see some major players, Star City Games, Channel Fireball, Card Kingdom, start announcing Black Friday sales relatively soon, just to try and get ahead of the curve, because there's so much product being released. Our money, as your average Magic player, as your average collector, as your average consumer, we only have so much money to go around, right? And now if we start thinking, right, there's probably a decent amount of overlap between someone in their mid-20s who plays Magic and someone who has a Prime account. If you have a Prime account, on some level, you're probably going to look at Prime Day when it comes around next week, and with the amount of product that goes on sale, whether or not it is a good deal, our minds are wired to want to spend money. And even if we see things that we may not need, it's simple as a matter of saying, this is cool, it looks like it's on sale, it looks like this is a good price, I may not have wanted it, I may not have needed it, but now that I see it, I'm just going to buy it, right? And then when you start stretching that over the entire month, you can see how your money might be stretched very, very thin. For those of us who have a budget right now, right, who are facing unemployment and what have you, right, it may be harder to try and avoid all this. So I expect any retailer, again, that's really trying to get ahead of the curve, stores are going to be wanting to get in on this much, much sooner. And the sooner they do that, right, the bigger the advantage is going to be for them. Because even if a retailer, for example, if I, as a retailer, wanted to start doing this today, for example, and I list an item for whatever price, right, let's say $100 item, right, it's not going to matter if another retailer lists on Black Friday, if they list an item for $90, right? If someone bought it right now today for $100, if they deemed it was a good enough deal to buy right now, to buy today for $100, and even though that same a different retailer B, is offering the item in a month from now, right? The person that sold it right now for $100, they made $10 more and they got the money right now, right? And that's really what it means when they're ahead of the curve. And that's really going to give them such a big, big advantage over someone that's going to wait a month for the traditional Black Friday sale, especially if it's online, right? Again, not that big of a difference, right? What difference does it really make if you sell it right now or in a month? The whole idea of Black Friday was the idea that it is a single big sale day. It's a single day to really push quarter four sales, for retailers, right, to get that huge single day spike in their sales. And because most retailers really need it right now more than ever in 2020 and in the time of the pandemic, right? In my mind, I think that if you're in the hobby industry, you should consider getting ahead of the curve and doing it now. This isn't necessarily meant to incite panic. I don't think that that I think everyone should go out and just start fire sailing their products. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that anyone who is already cognizant, who is already considering doing Black Friday sales, maybe start thinking about how to do it a little bit earlier to get those numbers in before the rest of the pack. Moving onwards, we kind of translate this into what's happening in the world right now. In the US, for example, for those listeners who may not be in the US, right? If we're looking at what's happening right now in the news, in the media, employment rate, it has been falling. This is a good sign. This is a good sign for the market. This is a good sign for the economy, but we're still looking at an 8% unemployment rate. It has steadily fallen since March. March was kind of that huge spike when a lot of businesses were closing, when people were under lockdown. A lot of people furloughed during that time, right? It has steadily fallen by a fairly steady amount since March. This info is reported by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's public information. You can go out there and look at the numbers for yourself. Unemployment rate is still falling. A lot of people are back on their feet working, but we're still looking at a much higher unemployment rate compared to pre-March, pre-COVID. Right, pre-March, pre-COVID, I think we were hovering a little under 4%, so we're looking at double the unemployment rate now. So what does this mean going forward, right? Over the weekend, there were talks, the stimulus check, the second wave of stimulus checks, it's possibly on hold. There hasn't been a negotiation that's been reached yet between the parties to come to terms with what a stimulus check looks like, how it's going to be released. So as of right now, we know that there's no more stimulus checks. And this is going to affect people, right, who may be counting on that. I know a lot of people, I'm much more fortunate than most people. A lot of people I know are on tough times. The pandemic has affected them pretty negatively. The stimulus check would be something that would have been beneficial. We saw how beneficial the first wave of stimulus checks was for our industry. It gave a lot of industries, a lot of collectible items. They saw a huge price surge. That was kind of the price surge we saw back in April, May, when people were really going out spending a lot of money if they got their stimulus check, right? Or if they just had money that extra expendable money that they weren't really using otherwise, it started going into collectibles, and that was a huge surge for us, for retailers, for game store owners, etc. In terms of price, right? A lot of people were buying at the time. That was a big deal. So this stimulus check, the fact that it's being withheld, it may put a bit of a damper on that. We'll kind of talk about some of the other things that's going on, but I do suspect that with the stimulus checks being withheld, we may see kind of a damper. Prices may level out. We may kind of see a plateau for the immediate future in terms of things that people are going to be spending a lot of money on. For kind of the smaller items, we may be just kind of on a hold for the immediate future for right now until we see the stimulus check come out, whatever that looks like. This isn't necessarily meant to be a political discussion. It's simply a matter of what the effect stimulus checks had on our economy in terms of our business, in terms of retail as a whole. So that may be some time off. We don't know what that looks like until we get news of that, right? We may be we may see prices kind of plateau out. This may be a reasonable buying opportunity. Depending on when that comes, we don't know if it will come for certain yet. So we'll have to kind of play that out. So what does this mean? What does this look like for us in terms of quarter four? We already know for Magic, there's two major product releases that are still coming out that we can look forward to. We have Commander Legends, which is the booster box product centered around Commander, centered around Legends. We've seen some spoilers from that. We do know that it's being pushed back from its original release date. Obviously, Wizards still having some troubles with the current state of the pandemic, with production, and trying to keep up with products being released in quick succession. So we know Commander Legends, November 20th. It's uncertain what that looks like. Who knows if it may be pushed back again, right? That's a possibility, especially if we're taking into account the fact that Zendikar Rising production issues, right? We're expecting a delay in product. A lot of retailers still waiting for their second wave of product to come out, to have it hit the shelves, right? Singles are still remaining relatively stable. Prices have gone down a little bit. We do kind of see that cooling period where prices have gone down, but for most part, prices on Zendikar Rising staples relatively stable. With Commander Legends, right? November 20th. That's only 6 weeks from now, right? Today's October 7th. right? So that's 1 month, 13 days away. Not really that long of a time for them to iron things out in the case if something goes awry. What if we're potentially looking at a product that's similar to Zendikar Rising? What happens if everyone who went out there and ordered their product, they're only getting 50% of it again, right? And this is coming in front of the holiday season. This is coming right before Black Friday. Now we see how this could be a pressure point for Wizards, for retailers, for consumers, ultimately. So that's November 20th. We'll have to watch that very, very closely. I think this is a topic that I'll visit again and again. Any new news that comes out about it, this is something that we'll keep an eye on. We do know how big Commander is, how big EDH is among Magic players. Most retail owners know that EDH is really their bread and butter of most of their retail operation. You have Commander players that will just buy things. EDH has really given rise to the fact that it's a whole new format. The fact that, not new, but the fact that it's a whole different format than your traditional competitive formats for Magic. It really has opened up the market in a way that it hasn't in the past. It's really given a lot of cards a lot of value, a lot of longevity for cards that would have otherwise just kind of fallen flat once they rotated from standard. This was a trend that we saw in the past before EDH really took off, and now that cards are specifically being designed with EDH in mind, it's becoming a bigger and bigger deal. And Commander Legends, I would say this is kind of the pinnacle of that. We know that Wizards has capitalized on EDH in the past. We do see a yearly release for Commander decks, for Commander products. Now we're kind of taking a step further, and now we're looking at a set that's designed, that's made to be draftable around Commander, around Legends themselves. And this will certainly be a big deal. There's a lot of anticipation for this. I feel on the official website it says that spoilers will begin on October 26th, so a little more than 2 weeks away from today. So all this product is starting to really come down the pipeline, and once this happens, it really doesn't slow down. Not too long after Commander Legends being released on November 20th, we're going to start looking at Commander Collection Green. This is something that we've talked about a few times. There are some problems with it. For those of you who aren't aware, it is a fixed product, kind of in the same vein as From the Vaults before. Each pack, it has, I believe, 8 cards in it. I don't remember off the top of my head. There's a fixed number of cards. There is a normal version, a non-foil version that's accessible to all retailers, and then there is a premium version where the contents are foil, and it's only accessible to WPN premium stores. This is something that is going to be a pressure point as well. Michael Caffrey, when he was on his interview, he seems to think the product will be a disaster. This does create some problems. Again, a lot of people may not have access to a WPN premium store. They're not widely prevalent. And most people, they're probably, even if they do have one, they may not have a choice. They may be forced to go to the one WPN premium store in the area. So there's going to be a lot of competition, right? Depending on how many are ordered, how many are available for order, how many a store actually gets versus being allocated. And now they potentially have to face the prospect of not just having this premium collection available for their own customers in their store, their normal EDH player base who may want this, but you may have customers coming in from different game stores into their store because they're the only WPN premium store in the area. They're the only ones who will have access to this product, and now you have a huge influx, right? And then that's not even looking at the product that store owners may have bought with intention of listing online yet. So I suspect that this is something that will happen down the line, right? These are happening in rapid succession, right? November 20th and then December 4th, not a lot of time in between. This is kind of in the thick of Black Friday. Black Friday does happen in the middle of this. This is kind of peak holiday season when people are really starting to go out and think about buying products for the holidays, buying gifts for friends and family. So this is really in the thick of it. Pokemon, they have kind of a steady stream of products being released, just kind of products all across the board. There are more Champions Path products coming out. This is something that they had tweeted about. I know a lot of people were unhappy with the state of Champions Path, the fact that there were a lot of supply issues, right? People were waiting in line at Walmart for the supplier to come and then just immediately snagging all the product right away because those people sell at MSRP. Right, this product secondhand value much higher than MSRP, right? 70, 80, $90 for a box. So there's a lot of demand on this. And Pokemon, they basically said more is coming. Don't be alarmed. Like I said in the past, if you can afford to wait, do so. You don't have to get your hands on it day one. Usually that's not the most financially smart thing to do. If you can afford to be patient, be patient. There will be more of it. Pokemon has basically kind of they're in holiday mode, as I kind of like to call it. For their retail stores, they generally have these big boxy products. They look visually impressive. They're big. There's a lot of air in them. They don't contain a lot of cards. I think most of them, like, you're looking at anywhere from like 6 to 10 booster packs, depending on the size of the collection. There's smaller collections. There's premium collections. They're big. They're impressive. They make good gifts because parents see them. They're not terribly expensive in the context of collectors, right? You can buy a booster box, which is a small, dense object, right? Or you can buy this kind of big, impressive looking product, right? There's a promo that's forward facing. That's really the face of the set itself. Usually the namesake for the product has this. And for retailers, for people that do Pokemon, they do well with these because, again, when parents are window shopping, when parents are walking to a game store, right? No parent, this, again, my experience from being in a game store, from working retail, no parent comes into a game store who's looking for Pokemon if they don't know what's going on, right? No, they don't go over to the showcase and say, oh, I'm going to, like, if the choice is between them spending $30 on a single, right? Maybe the best card in standard, and maybe the best card in the relevant format. Their choice is between spending $30 on one single card or spending $40 to $50 on a slightly bigger box product. 95% of the time, number made up, overwhelming majority of the time, the parents will go for a bigger product. Again, visually more impressive. It is something that's cooler to open. Even though it is technically going to be worse value, it looks impressive. Pokemon does a very good job of selling these because they're not necessarily appealing to your entrenched competitive player, right? Most of the people that buy Pokemon, they do so very casually. People buy Pokemon because of the art, because of the collectability, because it's cool, because it looks neat, right? Because of nostalgia reasons. People aren't concerned that this $30 single is the best performing card. People want something that looks cool. It's something that they can enjoy, right? Family, this, I know a lot of parents, I've sold a lot of parents before, they buy packs because they like to open them with their kids, and this is a hobby that they enjoy themselves and they can share with their kids. And that's a big part of Pokemon. So Pokemon, with these box sets coming out in November, slowly over time, right, there's going to be a lot more Champions Path available for people that missed out. This is a good opportunity for them to get in. I think this is probably around the point when, if you're looking to buy sealed product to hold on to, this is probably when I would start looking at it. Once there's enough that hits the market, right? Once there's no longer kind of that huge disparity between MSRP and what the actual market price dictates, then these will become more readily available. You don't really need to fight to get these at retail. So this was probably around the time when I would start buying them to stock them, if that's your interest. If you want to keep things sealed, if you want to squirrel them away and maybe look at them again in a year, this is probably the time. Kind of late November, especially if you can combine it with the Black Friday deal in any capacity, right? We know what these deals look like. That's probably the time to buy. That's probably worth waiting. So those are kind of the products, right, for Magic, for Pokemon, that I'm familiar with coming out in Q4. So there is a lot of product that's going to be released over a short period of time, right? Again, for most of us, for your average consumer, your dollar is going to be stretched pretty thin. So in terms of maximizing what you can do, it really comes down to being able to make the best judgment decision, finding out what works for you. If you can afford to be patient, do so. There will be more opportunities. I can guarantee you. You don't have to ever pay for something that's overpriced if you think it's overpriced. Again, don't get caught up in FOMO. Don't get caught up in the fear of missing out. Don't get caught up in your emotions. We mentioned this before in the past regarding the psychology of investing, right? Think smartly. Don't use your emotions to make decisions, right? Usually most of the time you'll end up making the wrong decision or something that is definitively bad for your wallet, definitively bad for your assets and investments. So that kind of leaves us with the last tidbit, right, that we'll cover today. What do single prices look like in the upcoming months? So there's a lot to unpack here. We have seen since the beginning of the pandemic, the stimulus check that was, again, I would think that's kind of the catalyst. That's the spark that really set off this whole run on the collectibles market. Prices have cooled down, right? We're kind of in the recovery period post spike, right? It's all started kind of like with the Gaia's cradles, with the reserve list cards, everything just kind of popping up, going crazy. Now we're kind of in the cooling down, right? More copies are hitting the market. Market is slowly starting to correct itself. We're reaching a price equilibrium that is higher than prices pre-COVID, right? We're probably not going to see prices like that we saw in like January, February, March again in the immediate future. But, right, we're down from that like peak. A lot of people are starting to list their cards. People that don't need their cards are starting to sell them again. There's more copies circulating in the market, right? Supply is no longer really pressure point, right? There's not a huge shortage on supply anymore. Now that we have people slowly rediscovering their cards, listing extra cards they don't need, right? It's creating more competition in the market, and now prices are coming down. They're cooling off for single prices. But again, prices in April and March probably not recovering to that same level anymore. I think that time has kind of gone and sailed. If we're looking at blue chips, the big things, right, as indicative of the auctions that we see, the major auctions from PWCC, from Heritage, we'll kind of go over that again in a moment. These prices kind of on a one-way street for blue chips. There's a lot more people spending money than ever before. We know that people that want to invest, people who can afford to put their money into assets, into investments, right? They're looking for ways to park their money, because if we are looking at another wave of stimulus checks, right? This is basically creating. They're basically just printing money, right? That's what the stimulus check is. They're generating this huge amount of money, and indirectly, right, that causes inflation to occur, right? There's more money now than there was prior to them printing this, and then there's more money today than we had in circulation prior to the first wave of stimulus checks in May. So most people who are able to invest, people who are able to afford to do so, you're wanting to move out of actual money, and you want to move your money into assets. So blue chips, right? Commodities that are well known, are stable in the market, right? So in the context of collectibles, in context of Pokemon, right, we're looking at base set boxes of first edition Charizards, the first edition base set. In general, those are all blue chip items. In Magic, right, we will be looking at dual lands, Power 9, Black Lotuses, etc. People are wanting to bind these, right? The nature of a blue chip is that it is stable over time, right? Something that is, an unlimited Black Lotus that you spend $10,000 on today, right? It's probably not going to be less than $10,000, right? If it is, it's not like it's going to go from $10,000 to $5,000, right? You may see a slight decline, right? It may dip in price a little bit. We may go from 10,000 to maybe 9,500 or 9,000. But the price won't crater in value. More likely, it's going to stay at 10,000. It may go up a little bit, it may go down a little bit, right? Kind of natural fluctuations in the market. Whereas the money that you have in the bank today against inflation, right, you will have less buying power with that money tomorrow when there's more money in circulation. Right now, more money in circulation means that your money is just inherently worth less. So that's why people who are investing, they're wanting to put their money into physical assets. This is why bullion, right? Silver, gold, people buy these as a hedge against inflation, because we know that silver, fixed price, gold, fixed price, precious metals, fixed price. People do this as a way to hedge against inflation that occurs with paper money. So that's why people don't bank on it. That's why you see a lot of people who do hold a lot of silver and gold as a way to hedge against this potential inflation. Assets, again, not really different. Blue chips, I suspect, will continue to do well. I don't really see any reason why a first edition base set booster box, if it hits the market, right, we know that I don't suspect it will go for less than $200,000. $198,000 was the one on Heritage. More on that a bit, right? But I don't suspect the next one will be cheaper, right? I suspect that anyone who has one and who wants one is probably going to be paying more than that price going forward. And that's just going to be the reality of the situation. Especially as there's more and more demand, especially as you have more money. We've talked about this time and time again. There's more eyes on the hobby. There's more money in the hobby. More people are starting to put their money there, right? These people that do have the money, who aren't financially tied at this point, that can afford to move from their money in their account into physical assets are going to be looking at these blue chip items to do so. And these items, I don't really suspect will slow down, regardless of whether or not there is a stimulus check. If there is another stimulus check, I do suspect that prices will see another jump on these higher end items as more and more people are wanting to buy them. Right, this is when FOMO really starts to kick in for people. Anyone who was aware of this during the first stimulus check, they may have thought that, man, I missed out on an opportunity to buy back then. And we know that with another wave stimulus check, people might start buying up things left and right. I maybe want to be buying this now as opposed to missing out later, right? That's really where FOMO is at its strongest. That's where most people are going to feel it. At this time, I think there's a lot of pressure, right? There's a lot of pressure that's going to prop these up. There's not a lot of pressure pushing them down, right? It's in the beauty about collectibles, right? It's a blessing and it's a curse. The beauty about collectibles is that there often is relatively little pressure on these high-end collectibles, on these blue chip items. There's little reason. That's why they're blue chips. That's why people put money into them. That's why they're worth the big bucks. They are financially sound investments. The nature of a blue chip is that it holds its value, right? In the real world, right? When we think about blue chip, right? Coca-Cola, Walmart, Amazon, Apple, right? All these like mega corporations, mega companies, right? It's unlikely. I can't imagine a world where Walmart closes shop in the immediate future. I don't know what that looks like for Walmart to close up shop. That's not to say that can't happen, right? If you went back 20 years, right, the year 2000, right, Radio Shack. Who would have thought that Radio Shack, right, the premier like seller for consumer electronics, would be closing shops left and right within like 10 years or something, right? And that's just the nature of Amazon surging ahead and really taking over and really kind of getting into that market space. Now, how many of us can ever say like we've been to a Radio Shack in the past like 5 years? I know I haven't. It's possible I may have, but it's probably such a forgettable experience I don't think about it anymore. I actually don't even know if there's a Radio Shack close by. But again, things change, times do change, but fundamentally the core of a blue chip is holding these. You're likely to be insulated from a huge shift in the market in either direction. It's not going to really go up that much. It's not going to really go down that much. It's just going to be safe. And that's why people buy them. Again, with collectibles, I don't really see a lot of these blue chip items really shifting in either direction. I think trajectory on them is relatively stable, if not up, right? When we have more people entering the market, right, which we'll talk about in a bit, all that does is put more visibility on it, put more eyes on it, and it's going to push it up. And blue chips will continue to be that way. So I think if you can afford to do so right now, putting money into a lot of these blue chip items is a good place to do so. And not every blue chip has to be worth like $200,000, right? I'm sure a lot of us don't have the liquid assets to go out and spend $198,000 on a booster box. Even if we want to do so, right, it's still tough for most of us that have that, right? For that price, right, we're talking about a down payment on a mansion, right? You can basically buy a mansion, I imagine, in most states, right? Probably not like in San Jose, California, for example, but that money probably is going to be a big deal for a lot of people, but there are still blue chips out there that exist. Power, I think, is an example of a blue chip. Price is pretty stable. There's a lot of demand for them. A lot of people are spending. So the price of power has gone up. Dual lands, we've seen dual lands kind of go up across the board in general. Even the unplayable dual lands have gone up in price, mainly because the price disparity between them has to stay relatively constant. You can't just see the high demand dual lands. You can't just see Underground Sea, Tundra, Tropical Island go up and then just leave the other ones it does. So that's not how things work. Realistically, even those are ones, if they go up first, then we'll start to see the lower demand ones, Taiga, Plateau, slowly catch up in value just so that gap remains consistent. And those are examples of blue chips as well. We know there are reserve list items. There's a lot of people still stand by the reserve lists, and that market really is going to stay stable or go up over time. Again, we may be in a cooling period, right? We may see some of these prices not as high as before, but these prices, probably kind of on a one-way path. We're probably, again, just going to have to come to terms with the fact that these prices are going to be higher than they were before. There's not really a cause or reason for them to retract in price. So lastly, some things that I just want to take note on. Again, when we talk about blue chips, when we talk about people that are looking to get into the market that spend a lot of money to do so, Steve Aoki, right, DJ, big in EDM, right? A few days ago, he posted on Twitter. This was on Verbank not too long ago, so sources do have to be confirmed. I can't say this for certain, but the thing that I know for a fact, right, this is something that is available, this is something that you can see, is Steve Aoki with a few other people. He opened up a high-end card shop in Hollywood, California, and they are basically dealing with high-end sports cards. One of the things that they had posted was there are 77 PSA 9/PSA 10 Kevin Durant rookie cards. These cards, probably about $1,000 a piece. There's 77 of them in one picture. And that is really just marketing to people that are heavy into sports cards. There's a lot of money to be made in sports cards. It is a volatile business. It is a tough business. I know that from the people who have done it for a long time. It's not something that's easy to get into, but people that do well generally do very well. And this card store that he opened, I believe it opened on October 1st, is going to be a game changer for a lot of people. They advertise that they deal with Pokemon as well and in modern art. And prior to writing this, when I was just browsing through my social media, getting ready to post the outline and the post for this episode to go live, I saw in the Verbank group that unofficial picture. It may not be public yet, so I can't verify. This is simply what I saw. Seems to be evidence that a first edition PSA 10 Charizard, right, big blue chip. We talked about this. Sold for $170,000, and that is a big deal. If it did go to Steve Aoki in as a piece inside the store, right, that puts a lot of new eyes on the market, right? You have a lot of people, right, and you have a big name, right? Steve Aoki, he is a very, very well-known DJ in the EDM scene, in the EDM music scene, and it is a big deal that he's moving into this market now. The fact that he has the money to do so helps, but when you have people with money, right, it's going to prop everything up. In kind of the same vein that we talked about dual lands, right, when your underground seas, volcanic islands, tropical islands, tundras, the blue duals go up in price, it naturally raises the price on the cheaper duals, right? There can't be this huge gap, right? You can't just have your higher end cards go like this and then your lower cards remain consistent in price, right? These are going to jump up in price as well to maintain that gap. So indirectly, this will probably affect the Pokemon collectible market. It's already a very, very hot market. A lot of people are already moving into the market. And now this is simply another matter of people with a name putting a lot of money into it. And every time we see big money like this, all it's going to do is draw the attention of more people. More recently, right, kind of in the past few days, I wanted to talk about this sooner. I just didn't have a chance to do so. Logan Paul, it turns out he was the person who purchased the first edition base set box from Heritage. We talked about this, I think, about a month ago or so, right? That was the box, $198,000 via auction on Heritage. He was the buyer for the box. He's going to do a box break. He's going to open up the box and he's going to sell out the packs individually. He did a deal. I think he made a video about it on YouTube. I haven't seen the video myself, but this is another big deal, right? This is someone else that is able to put a lot of money into a blue chip. He is breaking it right away, right? So I again don't know whether he plans on keeping it in the packs for himself, right? But this is a highly visible sale transaction, right? There's a lot of eyes on this. A lot of people know about this, and now it's going to perhaps start drawing more pressure from outside people, right? What happens, right? Logan Paul is well known that he is a fan of Pokemon, right? This is going to, again, someone who may not necessarily be thinking about Pokemon right now, but they know about Logan Paul, they know about boxing, right? They know about who he is, right? That might bring them into the Pokemon scene, right? That may kind of, kick back that nostalgia for them, even though they didn't think about it prior to Logan Paul posting about it. And now, right, that's simply someone else who's coming into a market, right? He doesn't necessarily have to be high profile. Doesn't necessarily have to be someone else who's willing to spend $200,000 on a box of Pokemon cards. But that's another entry into the Pokemon market that we didn't have before, that may not have been reintroduced to it. And now, right, we can see how this effect is starting to cascade, and how with more entry, with more eyes, more visibility, it's going to prop everything up. Again, this really operates, I think, at all levels. You don't have to be out there with $200,000, right? Don't go on, take a mortgage on your home to be able to buy these things because some guy on YouTube told you to do so. But there are still opportunities for people to buy. There are still items out there that will do well. I think getting ahead of the curve, right? This channel is entirely about being able to invest, being able to buy smartly with the decisions, with making decisions that we have given the data in front of us. And I think all signs do point towards, these very, these highly visible transactions, right? Steve Aoki, Logan Paul, right? Like, we know Gary Vee was kind of at the beginning. He's also someone that's really pushed for sports cards and Pokemon cards, right? All these people, they have such a huge following on some level if they're recruiting new people in the market because of people that follow them on Instagram, on YouTube, on Twitter, what have you, right? All these social media platforms, with how closely everything is integrated and tied together, right? Some amount of people will be entering the market who weren't in there before. And all this is rewarding the people who are already in the market. If you're already holding on to these assets, to these investments, to these things that over a long period of time, right, these things will start to pay off for you. And I think getting ahead of the curve, again, one things that we've had discussion before, right? Next year will be the 25th year for Pokemon, right? 1996 was really when it kicked off. It will be a big deal, and hopefully it'll be a bigger deal. Hopefully over the past 5 years, Pokemon will do a little bit better than they did in 2016 with the 20th anniversary, right? So looking at the 25th anniversary, maybe a bigger deal. And if we do see another surge, when we combine this with the pandemic, with the shortage of some of the supply, with the Pokemon product that we have seen, with a lot of new eyes, a lot of new entries into the market, and with the hype with nostalgia that's really going to kick people off from 25 years with the 25th anniversary, right? We may see another huge boom in the market next year. And again, I keep saying ahead of the curve a lot, but if your goal is to do that, then trying to stretch your dollar, do the most you can right now, maybe prudent. It may be a good idea. And again, I'm not trying to create this feeling of FOMO. I'm not saying go out and buy everything you can because you're going to miss out, right? Do what makes sense for you. Do your research. I know I try and encourage ideas on here. I try and educate people on a lot of different things, a wide area. So I'm sure at some level, no matter where you are, you can probably find something that fits your budget and will pay off in long term, right? That can be simple as wait until Black Friday, wait until some of these stores restock on the Pokemon Champions Path products, and buy a few. Don't open them right away. Just buy a few, tuck them away, hold on to them, and it's very possible that by this time next year, right, those Champions Path products would have already paid dividends on what you bought them for. For Magic, right, there's a huge range. Personally, I'm going to start looking at some EDH singles in green. EDH is really where the money is to be made in Magic. If you're looking at this simply on a retail level, even on like a smaller scale speculation level, right? Green, with Commander Legends coming out, with Commander Collection Green, right? If anyone who was holding off on building an EDH deck because some of the cards in the Commander Collection were kind of pricey, or they're just waiting to get them all at once, anyone who buys that is going to be inclined to buy green cards for Commander. So a lot of these things, I think, will start to do well, especially the ones that haven't been reprinted, right? If you think about it from perspective of a consumer, someone who is going to buy a Commander Green deck, right? They have a Soul Ring, they have a Sylvan Library, they have a Worldly Tutor, right? Kind of these components of Green decks, and Omnath, Locust, and Mana, right? Some of these things may have been kind of hard to obtain, but there is a core for a Green EDH deck for them. And now once they have that in place, they may start going out and start buying more Green Commander cards. And I think that's a good place to be. Usually when we see things like this happen, we do start to see a surge in demand for our product now that it's accessible to people. Now that people are able to buy this, right? All that means is that they're going to buy more. And I think kind of this lower end, mid-range spectrum of green EDH cards, right? We're like cards that probably in like the $10 to $50 range. Anywhere in there, I think they're good pickups right now. I think if you're looking to make your hobby more affordable, you can afford to buy those and just have them ready. Even if you aren't necessarily going to play with them right away, I don't see any less demand for them in the immediate future once these cards start to come out. I'm only going to see these cards becoming more popular as more people want them to go in conjunction with their Commander Green deck. So I think to round out the year, that's kind of what the year looks like. We do see kind of there's a whole mix in there, right? Chimera products, right? Pokemon products, right? There's like blue chip stuff, right? Dual lands, right? Even just stuff as low as Commander cards, right? There's really room for everyone. There's really room for no matter what level of investor, what level of buyer you are, how much you want to invest in into a collectible market, right? There is something on any level of budget. And I really think that's why I try to strive for. I try to make it as open and accessible to everyone, not just the people that can afford to spend, $200,000 on a first edition booster box. With that said, that will wrap up today's episode. Thank you all for listening. As always, you can find me on Twitter at edwin13. You can find the social media sites for Vermilion PDX on the right. Wherever you are in the world, stay safe. Thank you all for listening, and we will be back tomorrow with more. Thanks again.